A bone-chilling winter night envelops a small solitary cabin deep in the Alaskan wilderness. You're about to witness a tale so extraordinary it defies every rule you thought you knew about survival and trust. But before we embark on this journey of heart-stopping suspense and unexpected friendship, take a moment to subscribe, hit that like button and ring the notification bell. Because stories like these rekindle our faith in resilience and connection. As you stay with us, prepare to be astonished by how a frozen grizzly bear's desperate plea transformed a grieving widow's solitude into an unforgettable bond that will leave you speechless. The cabin's wooden walls creak under the weight of the howling wind. Inside, only a single lamp casts a warm glow, revealing dust particles dancing like tiny fireflies in the air. This is the sanctuary Sarah Marta built after her world shattered 2 years ago. Her husband James vanished in a logging accident, leaving her grief-stricken and yearning for isolation. Here at 63 degrees north latitude, she found a refuge far from the bustling world, a place where her sorrow could echo in the empty halls without judgment. Yet this haven had also become her prison, its solitude pressing in like the relentless snowfall blanketing the landscape. Winter had hit with vicious force this year. Through the frosted windows, Sarah had watched moose lumber across the frozen lake's reflective surface, foxes etched their tracks along the tree line, and, on rare occasions, distant outlines of a majestic grizzly bear saunter past the clearing. But that night, as the temperature plunged and the wind's howl rattled every loose board, she sensed something different, an urgency slicing through the usual rhythm of wildlife. She first heard it as a tentative scratching at the door, a sound so faint she almost dismissed it as the shifting ice on her roof. Then came a low growl, gravelly and laboured, laden with exhaustion rather than aggression. Heart pounding, she eased off her wool slipper, reached for the rifle perched above the fireplace, and crept toward the door. Through the frost-encrusted window, she froze. A massive grizzly stood just beyond the threshold. Its once magnificent fur matted with ice, its breath so shallow it seemed the creature might collapse at any moment. Its eyes, dark, hollow, locked onto hers, revealing raw, unfiltered desperation. And in that instant, Sarah's blood ran cold. The bear lifted a single, massive paw and pressed it against the door, a silent plea that reverberated through Sarah's chest like a hammer blow. Every survival instinct screamed at her to retreat, to slam the door and leave nature to its own merciless devices. She'd lived here long enough to know grizzlies were apex predators, unpredictable, powerful, often deadly. And yet something about this creature's posture, its trembling frame, the icy crust of snow melting into droplets on its back, cut through her fear and cut deep into her heart. Should she risk her life to save a wild animal? Or watch it succumb to the merciless cold before sunrise? A gust of frigid air stole her resolve, but compassion won out. She wrapped the thickest wool blanket around her shoulders, exhaled to calm her racing heart, and unlocked the door. It creaked open, revealing the swirling storm beyond. The bear did not charge, it did not roar. It merely shivered in place, its shadow looming massive against the pale snow. Sarah swallowed her terror and stepped out, hand extended. The bear, muscles quivering, lowered its head in a gesture so vulnerable it felt like the world had shifted on its axis. With painstaking care, she backed toward the entryway, coaxing it inside. One cautious step at a time, the bear crossed the threshold, its enormous frame brushing the walls, until finally it collapsed onto the wooden floor. Sarah's heart thundered in her ears. She had invited the wild predator into her home. For a breathless moment, cabin and bear were suspended in silence, save for the fire's crackle. Then Sarah realized the creature lay motionless, its chest barely rising. Fear and empathy warred in her chest as she approached. Eyes wide, beneath the melting ice she discovered ragged wounds, matted patches of fur hiding a deep gash along its left shoulder. Paws cracked and raw from trading blows with the frozen ground. Kneeling, she retrieved a towel, soaked it in warm water, and pressed it gently against the wound. A soft rumble escaped the bear's throat, an acknowledgement, not a threat. Their eyes met, and in those depths, Sarah saw more than a beast. She saw intelligence, confusion. and a spark of something akin to gratitude. The next days blended into a rhythm neither had anticipated. Sarah gathered driftwood to feed the fire, boiled rice and dried fish for the bear, and spoke to it in quiet tones, fragmented stories of James, of dreams once shared. The bear would respond with low huffs, its breath forming small clouds in the hearth's glow. When she wasn't cleaning wounds or fetching water, she hovered nearby, hands trembling yet determined, mesmerized by the creature's slow, painful breaths. Each time she addressed it, "You're stronger than you know," its eyes seemed to close in understanding, as if it recognized her kindness for what it was, a lifeline. One night, the hush was shattered by a sharp scrape at the window. Sarah bolted upright. The bear sprang to its feet, towering over her. Its fur rippled with tension as it leaned forward. Sarah grabbed her rifle but froze. Outside, through the glass, 3 wolves prowled at the edge of the clearing. Their yellow eyes glowed with predatory focus. The bear growled, a deep vibration that shook the cabin's floorboards. Heart hammering, Sarah hurled logs onto the fire, flames leaping higher. Then, grabbing a cooking pot, she banged it against the wall. "Get out of here!" she screamed. The pot's metallic clang echoed. The wolves paused, ears flicking, then retreated into the night. Relief washed over Sarah as the bear settled back by the fire, its head resting on its paws. A silent guardian by her side. Dawn arrived like a silent blessing. Snow stretched in every direction, gleaming under pale sunlight. The cabin felt different, charged with the memory of their shared victory. Driven by curiosity and concern, Sarah ventured outside, following the wolves' tracks to a stand of pines. There, partially buried, lay a small cub, its fur stiff with frost, its body motionless. Sarah's breath caught, tears misted her goggles. The cub could not have been more than a few months old. Then it struck her, with crushing clarity. This bear was not a lone wanderer seeking food, but a mother in agonizing search for her child. She felt a familiar ache twist in her chest, the same grief that had driven her here years ago. "You lost them," she whispered, voice cracking. "I'm so sorry." By the time she returned, the bear was awake, eyes following her every step. Sarah crouched by its side. "I saw your cub," she murmured, brushing her gloved hand along its flank. The bear's ears flicked. Its gaze held her in silent communion. In that moment, Sarah understood. Both of them were survivors marked by loss, bonded by pain. She would not let this mother wander alone into the wilderness, doomed and broken. She would help her heal and guide her home. Inside the cabin, Sarah packed supplies: dried meat, granola bars, medical kit, extra blankets. She spread a crinkled map on the table, tracing a route to the nearest wildlife sanctuary. Over 20 miles of frozen tundra, treacherous slopes, and predator territory. The bear watched, head cocked, as though absorbing every detail. Finally, Sarah slung her pack over her shoulders and looked down at her unlikely companion. "We're going to get through this," she said softly. The bear let out a low rumble, and for the first time, Sarah felt hope stir in her chest. The door closed behind them with a definitive thud, sealing their shared covenant. Outside, the air bit at Sarah's cheeks. Each breath felt like inhaling shards of glass. The bear paused, then lumbered forward on 3 legs, its injured limb dragging. Together, they ventured into the blinding white expanse, footprints trailing behind like signposts of their alliance. Sarah's boots crunched through the powder. The bear's growls punctuated the hush. As hours passed, she glanced back to find the bear still following, steadfast. Determined, admiration blossomed within her. This creature, once vulnerable, now embodied resilience. By midday, shadows lengthened as the sun dipped behind jagged pines. Sarah's muscles ached and the cold seeped to her bones. Scanning for a campsite, she froze at a low, menacing growl. Emerging from the trees was not 3, but 6 lean wolves, their bodies weaving between trunks like liquid shadow. The mother bear halted, ear tufts raised, and let out a cavernous rumble that vibrated the silent forest. Sarah raised her rifle, finger trembling on the trigger. One wolf lunged. In a blur, the bear swiped a massive paw, sending it flipping into the snow. The other wolves hesitated, Yellow eyes locked on Sarah. A warning shot cracked overhead, and at last the wolves melted back into the darkness. Sarah exhaled a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The bear lowered its head, and Sarah knelt beside it, whispering, "We did it! We kept each other safe!" That night, they camped by a frozen river whose surface gleamed like liquid glass under a sliver of moon. Sarah built a small fire. The bear curled at its edge, breathing slowly. She wrapped in furs and stared into the flames, memories of James flickering through her mind. He used to say, "We don't choose our battles, but we choose how we face them." Now, sharing this lonely camp with a wild mother, Sarah realized the truth of those words. She wasn't fleeing grief. She was forging strength. As the fire's warmth lulled her towards sleep, she felt a fragile peace knitting her heart back together. Morning's chill bit sharper than before. When Sarah awoke, the bear stood sentinel by the riverbank, mist curling from its muzzle. Together they packed and pressed onward, scaling icy inclines, slipping through drifts that swallowed their legs. Each step tested them. But each glance back, a reassurance that the other endured, spurred them forward. On the horizon, smoke curled from a cluster of low-slung buildings. A knot of relief and sorrow tightened in Sarah's chest. At the gate, Ranger Ben stepped forward, jaws slack at the sight of a grizzly at Sarah's side. "How?" he breathed. As his team prepared a tranquilizer, Sarah brushed a hand across the bear's matted fur. The bear met her gaze one last time, eyes glinting with trust. She whispered, "You're stronger than you know." Then, without resistance, the mother allowed herself to be guided inside. The walk back to her cabin felt surreal. The same path, but Sarah was changed. Wilderness no longer seemed a prison, but a tapestry of possibility. Weeks later, she received a letter. The bear had healed and would soon return to the wild. Tears blurred her vision as she read of her friend's progress. Standing by her window, she gazed across the snow, imagining the bear roaming free once more. In that vast emptiness, she no longer felt alone. Loss had taught her the depths of her own strength, and the bear had shown her the power of trust. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because sometimes the most extraordinary friendships emerge from the coldest nights in the wild, reminding us that resilience and connection can bloom in the unlikeliest of places.